Hello again. I've just been trying to make something in my hair, but I can't. It's just, it's cut like that, you see, my hair. It's, when I have it cut, the lady that does it, very nice lady, I have it cut wild. I said, I very seldom use a comb. My wife's trying to get me to use a brush. I've never used a brush all my life, but I'm starting to. But anyway, it doesn't look a lot of good. So anyway, it's cut wild, so I don't have to do anything with it. And there we are, you see, that's what it's like. It's wild. Now then, we're on about the Jaguar, the blue Jaguar again today. So this is the second part of the story. The blue Jaguar and how it met its demise. I still haven't thought of a title. I have to think of something clever, you know. In the next few minutes, we shall see how we go. But it's hard to imagine all this happened over 50 years ago. I was just looking up 71, 72, and it's now 2024. That's incredible. You younger folks, you know, you can't imagine how time flies. And all I can say is make the best of every day, because that day doesn't come back again. And whatever chance you had today to enjoy it and make a good, you know, and it's the only chance you've got. And then it's another day, and then never the same. So right, so Ruth used this car to go to work. She worked at the Pilgrim Hospital. The story will tell you this. And she used it to commute to work. She loved that car. She did really, but unfortunately, it had an accident. I'll tell you about that. Nowadays, of course, I mean, think 50 years ago, if this car had that accident now in 2000, you'd repair it. My God, the thing would be worth so much money. But you see, in those days, it cost £150, which was a couple of months' earnings, maybe a month and a half. And then the car we replaced it with, well, it was a nicer car, the red Jag, but it had badly damaged paintwork. Never bothered to repair it because it went all right. It was only superficial, but inside was lovely. But that only cost £250, if that. So you see, time they had an accident and wanted repairing, labour costs are still quite, well, I suppose everything's relative, isn't it? But they weren't worth repairing. So I had a comment on the first comment about the Blue Jag story, the first one, last night, and the chap said, well, you know, they ended up as banger racing cars, and I can see why they did, because there was a lot of them about at the time, and they weren't worth a lot of money comparatively. People didn't repair them like they do now, because they didn't realise 50 years ago how important they were in the history of automobiles, because that's what they were. That was your car for today. And now, of course, everything's the same. There's nothing unusual or very different. They're all very nice to drive. I mean, the car I drive, I love it. It's lovely to drive, but they're not the same. Okay, off we go with part 2 of the Blue Jaguar. Following years. I had the engine repaired at Bourne's garage at East Kirkby, a new set of valves in the cylinder head, and it was as good as new. Next to the Firestone company car, a Mark I Escort 1100 at that time, the Jag was always our chosen transport for private use, and Ruth used it for all her personal commuting to and from work. It was on one of those journeys that the Blue Jag met its match. The location was the car park at Pilgrim Hospital at Boston, where Ruth was working in the operating theatres. She was leaving for home one day and just manoeuvring her car with the sun in her eyes when a huge 4-wheel 16-ton dust cart found itself right in her path. Whether the Jag hit the dust cart or vice versa, I never did quite work out, but the eventual result was that the 18-year-old Jaguar eventually drove away and the dust cart was immobilised. The collision had been just behind the cab of the dust cart, and the Jag had been so badly dented its front wing was crushed up onto the front tyre. The wheel would not turn. The collision dented the lorry diesel tank and also severed the fuel line. The dust cart was then proclaimed unmovable. Ruth phoned me at work. Somehow the Firestone office found me, and I had to think fast. She was totally stuck, wedged under the dust cart, and something had to be done. Truly, in a flash, I thought of a friend in Boston who was the deputy manager of the local National Tyre Service depot. National Tyres were the Dunlop-owned retail tyre outlet and had branches in most towns throughout the UK. In no time at all, Mike had arrived with one of the firm's breakdown trucks. It was kitted out to deal with most tyre problems and had heavy lifting gear too. He disengaged the car from the lorry and levered the front wing off the tyre, sufficient for Ruth to get home. What eventually happened to the lorry I really cannot remember. Mike was friendly with most of the council employees in the town, as his company serviced the tyres on all their vehicles. They had their own workshops and mechanics, and I gather that the severed fuel line was the only problem and easily fixed. The Jaguar, though, was sorely injured, and the cost of serious body repairs sadly prevented it gracing the roads anymore. In those days, cars like this were to be found within the trade for not a great deal of money. Before long we located a beautiful Mark II 3.4 with glorious red coachwork and red leather interior. But the price had gone up. 432 GFU was to cost us £250. There we are. We hope you enjoyed this story. Brought to you by Cracker Books, written and read by Keith Sanders. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm now recording this before I make the film. But don't forget, if you enjoyed it, then think about giving us a like or subscribing to the channel or sharing the story with your friends. And it helps the thing to grow. You know, we need it to grow a bit more. And then the links are coming up for the rest of the stories and the books, and because this Jaguar story, you can read it in a book. It's Rum Life Book 3. You can download the whole book and read it chapter by chapter. This is just one of the chapters, or you can listen to it on Buzzsprout as an audio story on your phone or whatever. Quite free to download, so your choice is yours. And thank you for being with us today.